You are upside down in cold water, and the world is nothing but pressure and noise. Your ears throb like they're being punched from the inside. The rope bites into your wrist, not a clean cut, more like a slow saw. Every time you twist, it tightens, and you feel the fibers scrape skin off in strips. Your chest is locked. You can't pull in air because there is no air to pull. Your lungs are already past panic and into that ugly animal stage where the body starts spending what it doesn't have. Your vision narrows, darkening at the edges, and in the center you see the last thin sheet of blue light above you, the surface so close it feels like a joke. The sea pushes against your face, forcing salt through your nose. It burns all the way up, deep into your skull, and your throat wants to cough but knows coughing means swallowing water. Something bumps your shoulder, hard, blunt, not a fish, a rock, or a piece of wood, or someone else's knee. The current shoves again and your body swings like a hooked thing. You try to move your legs and your muscles answer late, heavy and stupid as if they belong to another person. You feel the weight at your waist, stone, tools, wet cloth, dragging you down, pulling you deeper into the dark where the temperature drops and the pressure climbs and the water turns from blue to ink. Your fingertips find the rope, slippery with algae and your own blood, and you try to climb it hand over hand, but the rope is not leading up. It's leading sideways, caught on something, snagged, trapped. You don't have time to think about what. Your heart is pounding so hard it makes the water vibrate around you. A bubble tears loose from your lips, rises fast, and you follow it with your eyes the way you'd follow a flare in the night, hoping it means rescue is near, knowing it doesn't. Your brain starts offering bargains. Just breathe. Just one breath. The surface is a myth. The surface is a story. Your fingers cramp around the rope anyway. You yank. The rope doesn't move. The rope owns you. The cold climbs into your ribs. A brutal ache spreads across your chest like someone pressing a board into you and leaning down with their full weight. Your mind flashes a simple image, air, 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 and then, as if to mock you, another image slides in behind it. Your village shoreline, the gray stones, the white foam, the older women watching the sea like they're watching a mouth that might speak your name. That's when you understand the ocean doesn't have to be violent to kill you. It just has to hold you long enough. Welcome to the simulation. You are stepping into a life where survival is measured in seconds and breath. You are going to walk through history not as a spectator, but as the body inside it. Cold skin, raw lungs, salt cuts, hunger and fear, and the quiet rules that keep people alive just long enough to work again tomorrow. If you want to keep surviving stories like this, if you want to keep testing yourself against the real weight of the past, subscribe now. It's a small action in the present, but it keeps you inside the timeline, chapter after chapter, when things get worse and you need the next breath. Now you go back, way back, before the rope, before the choking, before the water turned black. You are on the Japanese coast, where the land is narrow and the sea is not scenery, it is the employer, the judge, and the grave. The village is small enough that you can hear most of it from one end to the other. The slap of sandals on packed earth, the dull clack of wooden buckets, the far-off creak of boats rubbing their ropes. Houses press close together, built to resist wind and salt, with dark wood that has absorbed decades of damp. The air tastes like brine and smoke. Fish has been dried here for so long, the smell has soaked into the walls, into the cloth, into you. Even when the wind changes and brings clean mountain air for a minute, it never stays. The sea always pushes its taste back in. You grow up with it in your nose. Salt, kelp, old nets, and the sharp metallic stink of seaweed rotting in piles after storms. In summer, the heat makes everything louder. The flies are aggressive, fat from scraps. Sweat turns the salt on your skin into grit. You learn early that comfort is not part of the deal. In winter, the cold is a separate kind of cruelty. It creeps into joints and stays there. It turns wet cloth into a weapon. It makes the sea look calm and harmless, like a sheet of hammered steel, while it steals heat from any body that enters it. You are not rich. Nobody here is. Work is not a choice, it's a condition of being alive. You watch adults move with that steady, worn-out efficiency that comes from repeating the same tasks until the body memorizes them. You see hands cracked from salt and rope. You see forearms corded and scarred. You see people with shoulders set slightly forward from hauling nets and carrying loads, as if life itself is something heavy that has to be held up. And you learn the rules without anyone saying them out loud. You do not waste food. You do not waste rope. You do not waste daylight. You do not waste breath. The first time you understand what breath really means, you are still too young to work. You're near the shore, barefoot on cold stones slick with algae, watching the women prepare. They are not dressed like the fishermen. Their clothing is plain, practical, white cotton that will cling and turn heavy, wraps tight against the skin. There is no glamour in it. The cloth is already stained in places, not from color, but from use. Salt marks, rust marks, old blood that never fully washed out. Their hair is tied back, not for style, but to keep it from snagging. Their faces are calm in a way that isn't peaceful, it's controlled. It's the calm of people who know exactly what the sea can do and go anyway. You watch them check gear, knives, hooks, baskets, weighted stones, ropes coiled and inspected for frays. You see the small rituals that are really just risk management, tugging knots, testing straps, pressing fingers into fibers to feel weakness. Every movement says the same thing. If something fails out there, there will be no time to fix it. The boat sits low in the water, a working boat, not a proud one. It smells like tar and old fish and wet wood. The men who steer it speak with their bodies more than their mouths, balanced stances, eyes narrowed at the sea's surface for signs of current and weather. You learn to read the sea the way other children read faces. A line of darker water means something. Foam moving against the wind means something. Seabirds hovering in a tight, hungry cluster means something. Even the quiet means something. When the older divers move past you toward the boat, you feel the pull of their presence like gravity. Their footsteps are sure. Their backs are straight. They carry their stones and baskets as if they're carrying part of themselves. You realize this is not just work, it's identity. It's survival with a name. Years pass, and the village shapes you the way water shapes rock. Slow, relentless, never asking permission. Your body changes, your shoulders broaden, your lungs stretch, your hands harden. You learn to hold your breath the way you learn to walk, first clumsy, then steady, then automatic. Training isn't a clean line here, it's a constant buildup of small tests. You practice in shallow water until you stop flinching when cold hits your skin like a slap. You practice sinking your weight and staying calm when your chest starts to burn. You learn not to fight the urge to breathe like it's an enemy you can overpower. You learn to ride it, to let it scream in your head without obeying it. You're taught to respect the ocean, but what you're really taught is fear with discipline, fear without wasted movement. You stand at the shoreline on training mornings when mist hangs low and the air is sharp enough to sting your nose. You wade in until the water reaches your waist and your skin goes numb in patches. You go under. Your ears pop. Sound becomes distant and thick. Light changes. You open your eyes underwater and everything looks wrong. Bigger, slower, bent. You come up gasping and you're told to do it again. Not with cruelty, with matter-of-fact insistence, because the sea will not care about your feelings later. When you start joining real dives, the days begin before sunrise. The village is quiet, except for the low cough of someone waking and the occasional bark of a dog. You smell rice cooking, miso, smoke. You eat enough to work, not enough to be full. Fullness makes you slow. Fullness makes you sick in rough water. You drink warm tea and feel it hit your stomach like a stone. You tie cloth around your waist. You wrap, not check. The cloth is not comfort. It's armor against abrasion, jellyfish, sharp shells. On the walk down to the shore, your sandals slap wet earth. The air is damp, carrying that heavy salt smell that sticks to the back of your throat. You can taste it before you see the water. The sea is never still. It only pretends. In early light, it looks calm, but the movement is there in the way the surface wrinkles and slides, in the way the foam traces invisible paths. You step into the boat with the others. The wood is slick. The rope coils are wet. Your stone weight rests against your leg, cold through cloth. You sit low, conserving energy. Nobody wastes words. Words don't keep you alive down there. Preparation does. Rhythm does. As the boat moves away from shore, the village shrinks behind you. Roof lines become shapes. Smoke becomes a thin smear. The land becomes an edge you might not touch again today. Out here, the air feels cleaner but harsher. The wind cuts across your face. It brings the smell of open water, less rot, more sharp salt, more kelp, more cold. You look down at your hands and see old cuts, healed poorly, reopened, healed again. You can't even remember how you got half of them. That's the point. Pain becomes background noise. When the boat reaches the diving spot, you feel it before you see it. The water changes color. The boat rocks differently, as if the sea under you has a different mood. The older women scan the surface, looking for signs. Their eyes are not romantic, they're calculating. The sea gives hints if you know how to read them. A slick patch, a sudden ripple, a subtle shift in how the light hits. You take it in and file it away, because later, when your lungs are empty and your body is screaming, you won't have the luxury of figuring things out. You will only have what you trained into yourself. You strip down enough to dive, not enough to be exposed. The air on wet skin is a blade. You wrap tighter, you tie, you check the knot twice. Your stone weight is attached, ready to pull you down fast. Fast is safer in a way. Fast means less time in the awkward middle zone where waves can toss you and steal your rhythm. Fast means getting to work before the surface steals your warmth.
You sit at the edge and look at the water. Up close, it isn't pretty. It's not an advertisement. It's a moving surface with flecks of foam and bits of drifting weed. It smells alive and dirty at the same time. You can see nothing beneath it but a dim, shifting suggestion of depth. You breathe in slowly, filling your lungs until your ribs ache. Not a dramatic breath, a working breath. You hold, feeling your heartbeat settle into a slower, heavier pattern. You let your shoulders drop. You let your face go blank. You are not trying to be brave. You are trying to be efficient. The first entry always shocks, even after years. Cold water hits your skin and steals your breath, and you clamp down on the instinct to inhale. Your body wants to gasp. You refuse. You sink your weight, and the stone does its job, dragging you down with a force that feels almost merciful because it's decisive. The surface rushes away. Sound collapses into a low roar. Light thins. Your ears pressure and your jaw tightens. Your hands find the rope, your lifeline, your boundary between you and the sea claiming you outright. Below, the world is quiet and hostile. Rocks are sharp. Shells cut. Seaweed grabs. The water is colder here than above, not because of weather, but because depth has its own rules. You move along the bottom with measured motions. You feel the burn in your chest start early, but you ignore it. You focus on the work, the search, the scrape, the pry, the quick check for what's valuable. Pearls are not guaranteed. Oysters are not generous. Hours of suffering can yield nothing but sore hands and empty baskets. When you surface, you break through with a controlled exhale, not a desperate gasp. You pull air in fast anyway, The air tastes sharp, almost sweet compared to salt water. For a second, the world is too bright and too loud. The boat rocks nearby. The others surface in their own rhythms, some smooth, some frantic. You hear the signature sound of experienced divers, an exhale that is part breath, part whistle, part release. It isn't pretty, it's functional. It's the sound of a body clearing carbon dioxide, resetting for the next drop. You repeat, over and over. Drop, work, surface, breathe, drop again. And through it all, even on days when the sea is calm, you feel the threat like a shadow at the edge of your vision, because you've seen what happens when something small goes wrong. A cramp, a snag, a sudden current, a rope that slips, a stone that doesn't release, a moment of panic that steals the last usable breath. The village doesn't call it doom. The village doesn't call it tragedy until after. Before it happens, it's just understood. The sea takes. It always has. The only question is when it decides your turn has come. Today, in the early light, with the air cold enough to sting and the water dark enough to hide its teeth, you feel something else too, subtle but real. The wind shifts in a way that makes the boat tug against its rope. The surface patterns change, like a hand smoothing wrinkled cloth and then suddenly gripping it. A seabird circles low and then peels away fast, as if it saw something it didn't like. You don't name it, you just feel it in your gut, a quiet tightening. The same sensation you get right before a storm hits, when the sky looks normal, but the pressure is wrong. You breathe in, and the air feels heavier than it should. You look at the rope. You check your knot again. You tell yourself this is just another day, because it has to be. Because fear can't be allowed to take oxygen from you before the sea does. You lower your heartbeat. You prepare your body. You become slow and deliberate. And somewhere ahead in time, waiting for you like a trap already set, is that moment in cold black water when the rope bites your wrist, your lungs start to fail, and the surface turns into a distant rumor.
But for now, you are still above water. For now, you still have breath. You wake before the village fully wakes, and you know it's going to be a training day because your body already feels tired. Not sleepy tired, worked tired. The kind that sits behind your eyes and in the back of your neck, left over from yesterday and the day before. The air inside the house is stale with smoke and damp wood. Somewhere nearby, fish is curing, and the smell has seeped into everything. Your clothes, your bedding, the thin walls. You swing your legs down, feet finding cold floorboards that bite through the skin, and you stand up without hesitation, because hesitation is a luxury. Outside, the wind slides through the narrow lanes and scrapes against shutters. You can hear the sea even from here, a low constant like breathing from something bigger than the village. It's not soothing, it's a reminder. You step into the morning with a half-full stomach and a dry mouth. The tea you drink is warm, bitter, and thin. It puts heat in you for a minute, and then it's gone. You eat just enough rice to keep your hands steady and your legs moving. Too much food makes you slow, makes you nauseous in cold water. Too little makes you weak. The village teaches balance the way it teaches everything else, by punishing mistakes until you stop making them. You wrap your cloth tight. You check your ties. You push hair back and knot it so it won't slip forward and snag. There's no mirror worth trusting, so you feel your work with your fingers. Tight enough to hold, loose enough to breathe. You walk toward the shore with others, all of you moving quietly, saving energy, listening. The sand is hard and cold underfoot. The rocks are slick with algae where the tide pulled away. The smell down here is stronger, salt, kelp, wet rope, and the sharp metallic tang of old rust on hooks. Boats knock softly against one another, wood against wood, like teeth clicking. Nets hang in piles, heavy and dark. A few men are already working, shoulders hunched, faces turned away from the wind. Nobody looks like they're doing anything heroic. It's just labor. It's always just labor. Training doesn't happen in speeches. It happens in repetition until your body becomes a tool. You start in the shallows where the water is cold enough to sting but not deep enough to kill you quickly. The first time you go under, the cold snaps your lungs shut. Your chest wants to gasp, your throat wants to open. Your brain throws panic like a flare. You clamp down and hold anyway. You force your face into the water and keep it there, counting seconds without moving your mouth. Your skin prickles, your hands go numb fast. The water crawls into your ears and muffles the world. Sound becomes thick and distant, like you're under a blanket that's slowly tightening. You stand up again and suck air, fast and harsh, and you feel your heartbeat in your teeth. It tastes like iron, like you're chewing blood even when you're not bleeding. Someone watches you, older, quieter, not impressed. You're not being tested for courage, you're being tested for control. The sea doesn't care how brave you feel. The sea only cares whether you panic. You do it again. The goal is not to hold your breath like it's a contest. The goal is to make your body stop fighting itself. You learn to breathe before the dive in a slow pattern that brings the heart rate down. You learn to keep your shoulders loose so you're not wasting oxygen. You learn to stop kicking like you're drowning when you're not. People who fight the water die faster. People who move like they belong in it last longer.
They teach you the ugly truth early. The first enemy is inside you. Your lungs are not a tank, they are a burning warning system. The burn you feel is not lack of oxygen at first, it's your body screaming about carbon dioxide. It wants you to breathe to dump it. It lies to you. It tells you you're dying when you aren't yet. If you obey that lie, you inhale water. If you fight it too hard, you tighten up and waste oxygen anyway. So you learn the middle path. You feel the burn and keep your movements small. You accept it. You don't argue with it. You treat it like pain in the hands from rope work. Real, present, not the end of the world. By the time you're taken deeper, you already know how fear feels in your throat. You know what it does to your stomach. You know how it makes your hands clumsy. And you know how to keep working while it's there. Out past the shallows, the water changes. The surface stops being playful. It becomes heavier, darker. The cold is sharper. When you slip under, light bends and breaks into rippling slabs that fade fast as you descend. The pressure builds in your ears. You swallow and it doesn't fix it completely. You pinch your nose and blow gently and you feel the pop that's half relief and half warning. You are learning what depth does to the human body, how it tries to crush you softly, patiently, without drama. You train with stones because stones don't care about your confidence. A weight tied to you will pull you down whether you are ready or not. The first time you let the stone take you, the speed surprises you. The surface rushes away. The world above becomes a bright blur. The temperature drops like a door opening into a basement. Your stomach floats for a second, then settles into a grim acceptance. Your hands find the rope line and slide down it, fingers feeling for frayed spots, for slime, for the tiny vibrations that tell you the line is under tension. You learn to respect tension. A rope isn't just a rope out here. It's a boundary between returning and not returning. You are taught to test it, to understand how it feels when it's straight and clear versus when it's dragging across rock. You are taught to never wrap it around your hand the wrong way. You are taught that a knot is not a decoration. It is a decision made in advance about whether you will live when something goes wrong. And something always goes wrong eventually. The older divers don't talk about disaster like it's rare. They talk about it like weather, cramp, current, snag, blackout, jellyfish, shark, rare but not impossible, rockfall, sudden wind, boat drift, rope tangle. All of it is part of the job the way blisters are part of walking. You listen and you feel the weight of those words settle into you, not to scare you, but to build the right kind of caution, the kind that keeps you alive without slowing you down. You learn your body's signals like a map. The early stage. Warmth in the chest, smooth movement, clear thought. Then the burn arrives. Then the throat tightens. Then the urge to breathe becomes a claw. Then your vision starts to narrow slightly. Then your thoughts get thick and slow, like your brain is moving through mud. This is the danger zone. The place where people make stupid choices, where they drop tools, where they forget the rope, where they chase one more shell because greed whispers louder than survival. You are trained to surface before you want to, not after you have to. But training is never clean, because the ocean doesn't offer clean situations. Some days the water is calm and you think you're improving. And then the next day, the current shifts and it feels like you've gone back to being a child flailing in shallow water. Some days you descend and the cold hits so hard your muscles lock for a moment. Some days your ears won't clear and every meter down feels like someone driving a nail into your head. Some days you surface and your lungs feel bruised for hours afterward. You keep going anyway. You learn how to float with purpose between dives, not resting like someone on vacation, resting like someone trying not to die. You keep your face angled into the wind to avoid spray. You keep your hands busy checking straps so your mind doesn't wander into fear. You listen to the water slapping the hull. You smell tar and wet rope and the faint sourness of sweat trapped under cloth. You watch the other divers, and you learn from their small habits, the way they inhale, the way they purge air, the way they drop their shoulders, the way they don't waste motion. Over time, you start to understand the real skill isn't breath holding, it's staying calm while your body begs you to do something stupid. The first time you push too far, it happens quietly. There's no dramatic moment. You're down on the bottom, fingers scraping along rock, searching for shells in the dim. Your chest is burning, but you tell yourself it's manageable. You pry one shell loose, then another. Your hands are slow because the cold is stealing feeling. Your mind is focused on the simple logic of work: find, grab, store. You notice your vision is slightly tunneled, but you shrug it off because you've felt that before. Then you realize you don't remember how long you've been down. That thought lands like a stone inside you. You check your body, and suddenly you feel everything at once: the crushing urge to inhale, the tightness in the throat, the pounding in your chest, the pressure in your ears, the cold biting at your face. Your hands squeeze the rope. Your brain flashes that image of air like it's a command. You push upward too fast. Your movements become jerky. You kick harder than you need to. You waste oxygen in a burst of panic. The rope slips in your fingers. You grab at it again, clumsy, and for a second you think you've lost it. That second is enough. Your throat tries to open. Your mouth twitches. You feel the start of a cough. You force it down. You clamp your jaw. You keep moving upward. When you break the surface, you don't do it with the clean, controlled exhale you were taught. You explode into air like you're being dragged out of a grave. You cough hard, spraying water, and your head swims. For a moment, the sky is too bright, and the boat is too far, and the world tilts. You hear the slap of waves, but under it you also hear your own breath, ugly, loud, desperate. Your heart is hammering. Your hands shake.
Nobody praises you for surfacing. Nobody scolds you either. They just look at you, and you feel the quiet message. You just met the edge. Remember it. Don't romanticize it. Don't forget it. Later, when you're back near shore, you vomit from the effort, bile and seawater, and you stare at it like it's proof of something. Proof that your body has limits. Proof that the sea can push you past them whenever it wants. You don't get to quit. You just get to learn. Training gets harsher as you grow stronger. Longer holds, deeper drops, colder mornings, rougher water. The older divers make you practice in bad conditions on purpose, because the sea doesn't schedule danger for convenient days. They make you learn how to move when waves are slapping your face and stealing rhythm. They make you practice clearing your ears without panic. They make you practice releasing weight fast if something snags. They make you rehearse the motions until they are automatic. Cut the line, drop the stone, follow the rope, surface. No hesitation. Because hesitation is what kills people who know how to dive.
You begin to understand the ocean is not a single enemy. It's a collection of problems waiting to happen at once. Cold steals strength. Pressure steals clarity. Darkness steals direction. Current steals time. Panic steals breath. And greed steals your willingness to surface when you should. So you train your mind as much as your lungs. You practice noticing fear without obeying it. You practice hearing your heartbeat without letting it speed up. You practice moving slowly even when the body wants to thrash. You practice accepting discomfort without turning it into desperation. You learn to treat pain like information. The burn means time is running. The tunnel vision means time is almost gone. The sudden calm after panic, that's the most dangerous sign, because that's when some people stop fighting and sink. You learn that too. You see it in others sometimes, the way someone surfaces late and doesn't look right. Their eyes are unfocused, their face is slack, they cough weakly or not at all. Their limbs are heavy, uncoordinated. Sometimes they recover, sometimes they don't. When they don't, it happens with almost no drama. They just stop being a person and become weight in wet cloth. And the sea keeps moving, indifferent. By the end of this chapter of your life, you don't think of breath as something free. You think of it as currency. You spend it carefully. You hoard it. You waste none. You become someone who can sit on the edge of a boat in freezing wind, stare into dark water, and lower yourself in without your hands shaking. But that doesn't mean you're safe.
Because skill doesn't cancel bad luck. Skill only buys you time. And time, down there, is the only thing you ever run out of. As you stand on the shore after another brutal morning, cloth clinging to you, skin red from cold and salt, you watch the sea the way you watch a predator resting. It looks calm, it looks almost gentle, but you've felt its grip. You've tasted it in your nose. You've heard it in the muffled roar underwater. You know what it can do if a rope catches wrong, if a cramp hits at the bottom, if a sudden current pulls you sideways. You feel something like doom, not mystical, not poetic, just practical awareness. You are training for a job where the cost of one mistake is your last breath. And somewhere ahead, the disaster you've already tasted in that first hook, the rope biting, the sideways pull, the black water closing in, is waiting for the smallest opening. So you keep training. You keep learning to be still underwater. You keep teaching your body that panic is expensive. You keep tightening knots. You keep checking ropes. You keep building the kind of calm that isn't peace, but preparedness. Because the sea is not impressed by your effort. The sea only keeps score when you fail. You wake with your shoulders already sore, the kind of soreness that never fully leaves once it settles in. It lives deep, under muscle, under bone, where rest doesn't reach. The house is quiet, except for the wind dragging along the walls and the faint creak of wood adjusting to cold. Your breath fogs in the air for a second before disappearing. Winter is closer now. You can feel it in the way the cold lingers even after the sun rises, in the way the sea looks darker, heavier, less forgiving. Today is about weight. Not metaphorical weight, real weight. Stone, rope, wet cloth. The kind that pulls you down faster than fear ever could. You eat standing up because sitting makes your joints stiff. The food is plain and functional. It fills space but doesn't give comfort. Comfort is not part of the design. You drink tea that burns your tongue and warms your stomach just enough to matter for a short while. You don't talk much. Nobody does. Voices waste heat. Voices waste breath. Everyone saves both for later. Outside, the shoreline looks different when the season shifts. The rocks are slicker, the algae thicker, the water closer to black than blue, even near shore. The smell is sharper now, less sun, more rot. Kelp piles left by storms sit heavy and sour, buzzing with insects when the temperature allows. The boats are rimmed with salt crust, ropes stiff from drying wrong. Everything feels used hard and put away wet. You walk down with the others, and the stone waits for you near the boat. It's not shaped nicely, it's not smooth, it's just heavy. A dense, ugly thing that doesn't care about your body at all. When you lift it, your forearms tighten immediately, tendons standing out under skin already rough from rope and salt. The stone pulls downward with a steady insistence, like gravity concentrated into something you can hold. You don't carry it like a burden. You carry it like a tool that could kill you if mishandled. This is what separates shallow training from real diving.
Without the stone, descent is slow, inefficient. You waste oxygen fighting buoyancy, kicking, sinking inch by inch. With the stone, you drop fast. Too fast, if you don't control it. The surface vanishes almost instantly. Pressure stacks on your ears and chest before your body has time to argue. Panic doesn't have time to stretch out. It either hits hard or not at all. You tie the stone carefully. The knot matters more than the stone itself. Too loose and it slips at the wrong time. Too tight and you can't release it if something goes wrong. You test the release mechanism again and again until your fingers know it without your eyes. Pull here, twist here, let go, drop weight, float, live. That's the order. You wrap your cloth tighter today. The water is colder, and you know cold steals dexterity first. Numb fingers fumble knots. Numb fingers don't cut lines cleanly. Numb fingers hesitate. You rub your hands together until they sting, until blood pushes back into them, until they feel like they belong to you again. On the boat, the stone rests against your leg, leaching heat even through layers of cloth. You can feel it already, that dull ache creeping into your thigh where it presses. You don't shift away from it. You let your body get used to the discomfort. You know you'll feel worse soon. The boat moves out, rocking more than you'd like. The wind is picked up overnight. Nothing dramatic, nothing that would cancel work, but enough to make the surface unpredictable. Small waves slap the hull and spray cold water across your face. You taste salt on your lips and don't wipe it away. You'll taste worse later. When you reach the spot, the water looks wrong. Not dangerous at first glance, just heavy. The surface moves in long, slow rolls instead of quick chop. That usually means current below, the kind that doesn't show itself until you're already in it. You notice the way the rope trails in the water instead of hanging straight down. You file that away. Not fear, information. You sit at the edge and let your breathing slow. You don't rush this part. Rushing steals oxygen before you even start. You inhale through your nose, deep and steady, filling the lower part of your lungs first. You exhale slowly, longer than the inhale. Your heart responds, easing down from its restless morning pace into something heavier, slower, more useful. You grip the stone. It's colder than the air, colder than the water at the surface. When you lean forward, gravity takes over immediately. There's no hesitation, no gentle entry. 1 second you're above the water, the next the surface slams into your face and then vanishes. The stone pulls you down hard. Your stomach lifts. Your ears compress fast. The light fractures and then dims as you sink. The water presses against your skin like hands pushing from all sides. You swallow to clear your ears, and it only half works. You pinch your nose and blow gently, feeling the pressure shift with a dull pop that echoes inside your head. The descent is violent compared to free swimming. There's no graceful glide. It's controlled falling. Your hand grips the rope to keep from spinning. The rope vibrates slightly, humming with tension. You feel the cold intensify with each meter. Your face goes numb first, cheeks and lips tingling, then dull. Your fingers start losing fine feeling, though you can still grip. You hit the bottom sooner than your body expects. The stone slams into rock with a muted thud that travels up your leg. Silt puffs up, clouding the already dim water. For a second, you can't see much of anything. You stay still. Thrashing stirs more silt. Stillness lets it settle. You crouch low, knees bent, letting the rope take some of your weight so the stone doesn't pin you awkwardly. This is where the work happens. The bottom is not flat. It's uneven, broken, sharp in places. Shells cling to rock, edges jagged enough to slice skin if you're careless. Seaweed snakes around your legs, tugging when the current shifts. The water down here is colder, denser. It feels thicker, harder to move through. You start searching by touch more than sight. Your fingers slide along rock, feeling for the rough curve of shell among rougher stone. When you find one, you work fast but not sloppy. Knife in, twist, pry. If it doesn't give quickly, you leave it. Fighting stubborn shells wastes breath. Greed kills. You've seen that lesson written in pale faces and shaking hands. You drop the shell into your basket and move on. The burn in your chest arrives early today. Not sharp yet, but noticeable. A warning hum under everything else. You acknowledge it and keep going. You know your time. You know how much breath you have before things start getting dangerous. You don't push that boundary today. This isn't the day for it. But the stone makes everything feel heavier. Moving against it is awkward. Shifting position takes more effort. When the current tugs, it tugs harder because there's more for it to grab. You feel it pulling at your cloth, at the rope, at the basket. It's not strong enough to sweep you away, but it's strong enough to make you work for every motion. You glance up. The surface is a pale smear far above, distorted by water and distance. It looks unreal, like something painted on glass. You can't see the boat clearly, just a shadow, a suggestion. It doesn't feel comforting, it feels far. You finish your pass, and it's time to go. You reach for the release. Your fingers close around the knot automatically. Pull, twist. The stone drops away. For a split second, the absence of weight is shocking. Your body surges upward before you're ready. You grab the rope to control your ascent, keeping it smooth, keeping it slow enough to manage pressure, but fast enough not to waste breath. Halfway up, the current catches you. Not violently, just enough.
It pushes you sideways, changing the angle of the rope. You feel the shift immediately in your hand. The rope scrapes against rocks somewhere below. You picture it in your mind, the way it must be dragging, the way friction could be eating at the fibers. You don't panic, not yet. You tighten your grip and adjust your body, trying to line yourself back up. The rope resists. That's new. Not stuck, not fully, just wrong. It feels heavier than it should, less willing. You pull again, harder. The burn in your chest spikes. Your heartbeat jumps. You force it back down with slow movement, deliberate motion. Panic will make this worse. You kick, careful not to waste energy. The rope shifts a little. Enough. You keep going. When you break the surface, the air hits your lungs like fire. You exhale hard, then drag air in fast, filling everything all at once. Your head swims. For a second, the sky tilts and the horizon wobbles. You cling to the rope until the world steadies. On the boat, someone watches you closely, not alarmed, assessing. You know that look. They felt the rope move too. They saw the angle change. They noticed the delay. You nod once to show you're fine. Not proud, just factual. But something has changed. Once you start using weight, you can't ignore what it adds to the equation. Every dive becomes a negotiation between speed and control. Every ascent is a calculation. Every rope becomes suspect. You start noticing small things more, the way fibers feel under your fingers, the way knots sit after being wet too long, the way tension travels differently through the line depending on current. You also start noticing how tired you are. Weighted diving takes more out of you, not just physically, but mentally. The margin for error shrinks. The consequences get sharper. Mistakes that would be survivable in shallow water become fatal at depth. You can't thrash your way out of problems anymore. Thrashing just sinks you faster. As the day goes on, fatigue stacks up. Your legs feel heavy between dives. Your hands cramp when you hold the rope too long. Your jaw aches from clenching. Cold settles deeper into you, past skin, past muscle, into places you can't rub warm. You start shivering slightly between dives, and you force it down because shivering wastes energy. The sea doesn't care that you're tired. On one of the later dives, the current strengthens without warning.
You feel it as soon as you hit depth. It presses sideways, constant and insistent, like a hand pushing against your ribs. You adjust your stance, bracing against rock. You work faster than you'd like because you don't want to fight the current longer than necessary. The burn in your chest comes sooner, stronger. You grab 2 shells and decide that's enough. You reach for the release and drop the stone. As you start up, the current yanks your basket sideways. Your body follows. The rope jerks. For a second, your grip slips. That second stretches. Your fingers slide, skin scraping against wet fiber. Pain flares sharp and immediate. You clamp down harder, regaining purchase, but your heart surges. Your breathing urge spikes like a knife. You kick, awkward, fighting the sideways pull.
You get control back, but it costs you. By the time you surface, you're gasping again, breath loud and ragged. You cough once, hard, spraying water. Your chest feels tight, bruised. You cling to the rope longer than usual, letting the shaking in your arms pass. No one says anything. They don't have to. That night, back on shore, you strip off wet cloth and feel how raw your skin is. Rope burn stings on your palms. Small cuts from shells have reopened, thin lines of red against pale skin. You rinse them with cold water and don't bother reacting. You've learned which injuries matter and which are just noise. As you lie down later, muscles aching, joints stiff, you replay the feeling of the rope resisting, the way it dragged, the way your fingers almost lost it, the way your breath burned when you surfaced. Weight makes everything faster. Faster descent, faster danger. You understand now why the older divers are obsessive about rope and knots, why they treat stones with respect instead of familiarity, why they never joke while tying gear. Weight doesn't forgive sloppiness. Weight doesn't care how experienced you are. It just pulls. As sleep comes, your body heavy and sore, you dream of sinking, of falling through dark water faster than you can control, of reaching for a rope that isn't where it should be. And somewhere deep, beneath fatigue and salt and cold, a quiet certainty settles in. This weight will be part of your life now, and one day, if something goes wrong, it will try to keep you. You wake to the sound of wind pushing harder than it should for this time of year. It works its way through the village like a warning nobody officially acknowledges. Shutters knock softly against frames. Loose rope taps against wood somewhere nearby. The air feels wrong when you breathe it in, thicker, damp, carrying a metallic edge that sits heavy in your sinuses. You lie still for a moment, listening, measuring. The sea is louder today. Not crashing, not raging, just louder. A deeper, more constant voice, like it's closer than usual. This is not a day anyone cancels. You get up because the village gets up, because food still needs to be earned, because staying ashore doesn't make the sea safer tomorrow. Your body protests immediately. Yesterday's weight work has settled into you like a bruise that wraps around joints and muscle. Your hands ache before you even clench them. Your shoulders feel thick and stiff, like they've been packed with wet sand. You stretch without ceremony, slow and careful, until movement stops feeling dangerous. Breakfast is even smaller than usual. The appetite just isn't there. Cold and fatigue have a way of dulling hunger, replacing it with something tighter, more focused. You drink tea and feel it run through you without warming much. You wrap your cloth tighter than normal. You double-check knots that don't really need it. You tell yourself you're being careful, not nervous. Outside, the shoreline looks unsettled. The water is darker, carrying long streaks of foam that drift in odd directions. The wind pushes spray farther inland than it should. Kelp shifts along the rocks with more urgency, dragged and twisted by unseen movement below. Boats tug against their ropes, wood creaking under strain. You hear someone mutter about the current, not loudly, not as a complaint, just an observation. Observations matter more than optimism out here. On the walk to the boat, you feel that tightness in your gut again, the same one you felt during training when something didn't line up right. It's not fear exactly. Fear is loud. This is quieter. A sense of friction, like parts of the world aren't sliding past each other the way they should.
The stone waits where it always does. You lift it and feel the familiar pull settle into your arms. Today it feels heavier, even though you know it hasn't changed. You tell yourself that's just fatigue talking. You tell yourself weight always feels worse before it feels normal. You tie it anyway, fingers working by memory, not cinching down firm and clean. You test the release twice, 3 times. Your fingers linger on the rope a moment longer than usual. On the boat, everyone is quieter. Not tense, just focused. The wind cuts across the water and sprays cold droplets onto your face. They sting. The smell of the sea is sharper today, less open salt, more rot and iron. You can taste it without opening your mouth. The boat rocks more than yesterday, not violently, but enough to keep you adjusting your balance constantly. It drains energy before you even get in the water. When you reach the dive site, the signs are clearer. The rope doesn't hang straight. It pulls at an angle, cutting diagonally through the water instead of dropping clean. The surface has that stretched look again, long rolls moving against each other in slow conflict. This kind of current doesn't announce itself with drama. It waits until you're committed. You sit at the edge and slow your breathing. In through the nose, out through the mouth. Long exhales. You let your heart settle as much as it will. It doesn't want to go as low as usual. You don't force it. Forcing things leads to mistakes. You grip the stone and lean forward. The water swallows you fast. Cold hits harder today, like it's been waiting. Your face goes numb almost instantly. The stone drags you down at an angle instead of straight. You feel it immediately in the rope, the way it pulls against your hand, not down, but sideways. You adjust your body to line up with it, letting the rope guide you rather than fighting it. The descent is rougher. Pressure stacks faster. Your ears protest sharply. You clear them, but it doesn't fully settle. The light thins quicker than usual, turning dim and green-gray before fading toward black. The current presses against you constantly, not in waves, but as a steady shove that never lets up. You hit the bottom and brace. The stone lands awkwardly, sliding a little before settling. Silt blooms up, clouding your view. You crouch low and wait for it to clear, keeping movements minimal. The burn in your chest arrives earlier than you wanted to. You acknowledge it and start working anyway. Your fingers move over rock and shell, but the current keeps tugging at you, twisting cloth and basket, pulling at the rope. It's distracting. Every movement costs more effort. Every adjustment steals breath. You find one shell, pry it loose, drop it into the basket. You reach for another, and your fingers slip on wet stone. You waste time recovering. The burn sharpens. Your throat tightens. You know you're close to the edge of what this dive should be. You don't argue with that. You reach for the release. The stone drops. Instant relief. Too much relief. Your body surges upward faster than planned, buoyancy snapping you toward the surface while the current pushes you sideways. You grab the rope to control it and feel immediate resistance. Not a full stop, not a clean slide, something between. The rope jerks. Your ascent turns diagonal. The water rushes past your face unevenly. You tighten your grip, fingers screaming as wet fibers scrape skin. You kick to correct, trying to line yourself back up, but the rope is no longer a straight path. It's pulling across something below, dragging. Your heart rate spikes. You feel the burn turn into pain, deep and urgent. Your chest feels like it's being crushed inward. Your mind flashes air again, bright and impossible. You push it aside and focus on the rope. Panic will ruin this. You pull. The rope shifts slightly, then sticks again. You imagine it, caught on rock, wedged in a crevice, tension building with every movement. You kick harder than you want to. Your legs feel heavy, slow to respond. The current presses harder, pinning you sideways against the pull. You're losing time.
Your vision starts to narrow at the edges. The world tightens into a tunnel centered on your hand and the rope. Sound disappears completely. There is only pressure and effort and the growing certainty that something is wrong. You make a decision. You let go of the basket. It floats away instantly, shells scattering uselessly. You don't watch it go. You use the momentary lightness to adjust your position, twisting your body until the rope angle shifts just enough. You pull again, slow and steady this time, not jerking, not fighting the current head on. The rope gives, just a little. Enough. You move upward, hand over hand, ignoring the fire in your chest, ignoring the shaking in your arms. The surface is still far, but now it's aligned above you instead of off to the side. You keep moving. You don't think. Thinking wastes time. When you break through, you explode into air. Your exhale is violent. Your inhale even worse. You cough hard, chest spasming, water spraying. Your head swims so badly the sky seems to roll. You cling to the rope, forehead pressed against it, breathing loud and ugly and uncontrollable for several seconds. On the boat, movement.
Someone leans forward, hands ready, eyes locked on you. You hear your name faintly, distorted by the rush in your ears. You manage a nod. You don't trust your voice yet. They haul you in. You sit low, hunched, gasping until the shaking stops. Your hands burn where the rope scraped them raw. Thin lines of blood mix with salt water, stinging fiercely. Your chest feels bruised from the inside. Each breath is sharp, like you've swallowed something broken. No one scolds you. No one comforts you either. They just look at the rope. They trace it down into the water, following its angle, its tension. Someone mutters. Someone else tests it carefully, tugging in short poles. When it finally comes free, you see the damage. Fibers chewed up where it dragged across rock, fuzzy and thinned, closer to failure than anyone would like. Then someone doesn't surface. At first, it doesn't register as disaster, just delay. Someone is always a little late. Breath times vary. Currents change things. You wait, chest still aching, hands trembling slightly despite yourself. The seconds stretch. The rope moves faintly, then stops. Another diver leans over, eyes narrowing, scanning the water. Someone calls out again, louder this time. The name carries across the surface and dies without an answer. The rope shifts suddenly, not upward, sideways. The angle sharpens. You feel it in your stomach before you see it in their faces. The boat goes quiet in a way that has nothing to do with discipline. This is different. This is a tension snapping hard into place. They haul. The rope comes up slow, resisting, vibrating under tension. Everyone braces, muscles strain. The rope rises, slick with water, scraping over the gunwale. When the body breaks the surface, it's wrong immediately. Too still, too loose. They pull them in and lay them flat. Cloth clings heavy and dark. The face is pale, lips tinged blue. Water spills from mouth and nose when they move the body, but there's no coughing, no reflex, no fight. Time compresses. Hands work fast. They try anyway. They always try. Pressure on the chest, clearing the airway. Movement that looks purposeful even when everyone knows it won't be enough. You sit frozen, chest still burning, watching. The sea slaps against the hull, indifferent. The wind keeps blowing. The current keeps pulling. Eventually, they stop. No one says the word. They don't have to. The body is covered. The rope is coiled carefully despite everything, as if routine might hold the world together. The boat turns back toward shore earlier than planned. The workday ends not with a decision, but with a necessity. As the village comes back into view, it looks exactly the same as it did that morning. Smoke rising, roof lines steady, shore unchanged. It feels obscene. You look down at your hands, at the raw skin, at the shaking you can't fully stop. You feel the ghost of the rope biting into your palm again. You feel the sideways pull. You feel the burn. This is the moment the ocean stops being theoretical. This is the moment you understand that training, skill, preparation, none of it guarantees anything. It only shifts the odds. And today, the odds took someone anyway. As you step back onto land, legs unsteady, you realize something else too. This was not the disaster. This was the beginning of it. You wake with hunger gnawing at you like something alive. It's not the sharp hunger of a missed meal. It's deeper than that. Duller, persistent. The kind that doesn't spike and fade but sits in your gut and slowly hollows you out. Your stomach feels tight and empty at the same time, like it's been scraped clean and left raw. When you sit up, the room tilts slightly, just enough to make you pause and wait for it to settle. Outside, the village is quieter than usual. Not silent, never silent, but muted. Voices are lower, movements slower. The sea is still loud, still breathing hard against the shore, but it feels closer now, as if the water has edged nearer during the night. You know that's not true. The shoreline hasn't moved, but something else has. Yesterday's death sits in you like weight you didn't ask for. No one speaks about it directly. That's not how this place works. The body was handled. The family was informed. The necessary rituals will happen. Life will continue because it has to. The sea doesn't pause for grief, and neither can the people who depend on it. You understand this intellectually. Your body doesn't care. You dress slower than usual. Your muscles feel heavy, uncooperative. When you bend, your head swims again, a faint pressure behind your eyes that wasn't there before. You blame it on poor sleep, on cold, on the way your chest still feels bruised from coughing yesterday. You don't name the fear underneath it. Breakfast is smaller, not because food is scarce, but because no one feels like eating much. The rice sits heavy and tasteless in your mouth. You chew mechanically, forcing it down because you know you'll need the energy. Hunger is easier to deal with than weakness. You drink tea and it sloshes in your stomach without warming you, leaving you vaguely nauseous. You go anyway. Everyone does. At the shore, the wind has dropped a little, but the water hasn't settled. Long swells roll through, lifting boats unevenly. The rope lines drag at shallow angles again. You notice it. Everyone does. No one says it out loud. The death yesterday didn't make the sea safer today. If anything, it made the risk feel more urgent, more present, like a debt that hasn't finished collecting. You lift the stone and feel the familiar pull. It feels heavier again, though you know it hasn't changed. Your hands sting where the rope burned them raw. The skin there is tender, newly pink, already splitting in places. You wrap them anyway. Pain is manageable. Losing grip is not. On the boat, the mood is tight. Not panicked, focused to the point of strain. People avoid looking at the empty space where someone should be sitting. Tools are checked twice. Knots are tested hard. The rope is inspected inch by inch where it was damaged yesterday, repaired as best as it can be. Best doesn't mean perfect. It means usable. Usable is enough to risk your life on. You breathe slowly, but it doesn't settle you the way it usually does. Your heart doesn't want to come down. It beats a little faster, a little harder, as if it remembers yesterday, even if you try not to. You tell yourself this is just adrenaline, that once you're in the water, rhythm will take over.
The first dive proves you wrong. Cold hits you hard and stays. It doesn't fade into the background the way it usually does. Your face goes numb fast, but the rest of you feels painfully aware, skin prickling, muscles tightening. The descent feels heavier, slower, as if the water has thickened overnight. On the bottom, the current presses harder than yesterday. You brace, crouched low, fingers digging into rock. Silt clouds your vision almost immediately. You wait it out, breath ticking away in your chest, burn arriving earlier than it should. When you start working, your hands feel clumsy. Fine movements don't come easily. The shells don't want to give. You pry one loose and drop it, fumbling as it slips from your fingers and disappears into the silt. You swear silently and move on. Your basket stays lighter than usual. You surface early, lungs burning, breath loud and rough.
The air tastes thin. You cling to the rope longer than you need to, letting the shaking pass. No one comments. Everyone looks the same. Faces tight, movements economical, eyes scanning water and rope and each other. Dive after dive, it doesn't get better. Your body feels slower. The burn in your chest comes sooner every time. The cold sinks deeper, stealing strength from your legs. Between dives, hunger sharpens instead of fading. Your stomach cramps, twisting painfully. You drink water and it doesn't help. You eat a small bite of rice between drops and it sits wrong, heavy and sour. By midday, your head starts to ache. Not a sharp pain, a pressure, like something tightening behind your eyes. You blink hard and spots flicker at the edges of your vision. You tell yourself it's glare from the water, dehydration, fatigue, all things you've dealt with before. But this feels different. On one descent, as the light fades and the water thickens, you think you see movement where there shouldn't be any, a shape sliding just beyond your field of view. You turn your head and there's nothing there, just rock and weed and drifting silt. You keep working. On another dive, you hear something, not clearly, not a voice, just a sound that doesn't belong underwater, a low, rhythmic tone, like distant humming. It vibrates faintly in your skull, not through your ears. You pause, breath burning, heart thudding, and listen harder. The sound fades. You tell yourself it's the rope vibrating in the current, or blood rushing in your ears, or imagination fueled by exhaustion. You don't surface early. You finish the dive. By mid-afternoon, the hunger has turned ugly. Your hands shake slightly when you're not gripping something. Your mouth feels dry no matter how much you drink. Your thoughts come slower, like they have to push through something thick to reach you. Simple decisions take longer. You find yourself staring at the water longer than necessary, forgetting what you were about to do. This is dangerous. You know it is. You've been trained to recognize it. Fatigue plus hunger plus cold equals mistakes. Mistakes plus depth equals death. You tell yourself to be careful, to surface early, to conserve energy. Then you dive again anyway. On the bottom, your vision tunnels more than usual. The world narrows to your hands and the rope and the immediate patch of rock in front of you. Everything else feels far away, unimportant. The burn in your chest is constant now, not rising and falling, just there, a steady pressure that never fully leaves.
You reach for a shell, and your hand misses it completely. You blink, confused, and reach again. This time you feel it, rough and solid under your fingers. You pry it loose, but it feels harder than it should. Your fingers slip. You grow frustrated, a flash of irritation cutting through the fog. You twist harder, waste more breath, until it finally gives. As you drop it into the basket, you feel something brush your leg. You flinch violently. Your heart spikes. Your body jerks. Silt explodes upward, clouding everything. Your breath surges dangerously. For a split second, pure panic claws at you, screaming that something is there, something big, something alive. Then your leg hits rock. Just rock. A shift in position. Nothing else. You freeze, forcing yourself still. You count seconds in your head, slow and deliberate, waiting for your heartbeat to come down. It takes longer than it should. Your chest feels too tight. Your throat aches with the urge to inhale. You abort the dive. As you ascend, the water feels endless. The rope feels farther away than it should. You pull, hands slipping slightly on wet fiber. When you surface, you gasp so hard it hurts. Your lungs spasm, coughing out water and air in ugly bursts. For a moment, you can't see clearly at all. The world swims. Someone grabs your arm to steady you. You don't look at them. You focus on breathing. In, out. Slow it down. Get control. You nod to show you're fine. You're not. As the day drags on, the hallucinations get bolder. On the surface, when you stare too long at the water, you see faces in the ripples. Not clear, just suggestions, pale shapes that vanish when you blink.
Underwater, shadows seem to move against the current instead of with it. Once, you're sure you see a hand reaching out from between rocks, fingers pale and still. You jerk back hard enough to scrape your elbow. It's gone when you look again. You don't tell anyone. Talking about it won't help. It won't stop the dives. It will only mark you as someone whose mind is slipping, and that's almost as dangerous as being physically weak. You clamp down on it. You keep working. You shorten your dives, but not enough. By late afternoon, someone else's surface is wrong. Not dead, not yet, just wrong. They come up slow, movements uncoordinated, grip loose on the rope. Their face looks slack. Their eyes don't focus properly. When they try to speak, it comes out garbled, breathy, not words. They slump against the side of the boat, chest heaving weakly. They're hauled in and laid flat. Water drains from their mouth. Their limbs twitch oddly, not quite spasms, not quite stillness. Someone slaps their face lightly, calls their name. It takes too long for them to respond. They recover, eventually, but not fully. They're done for the day. Maybe longer. No one argues. Everyone understands what they just saw. A body pushed too far, a mind drifting toward the edge. The boat turns back early again. On shore, the village feels colder. The air bites harder. The ground seems less solid under your feet. You walk carefully, aware that your balance isn't what it should be. Hunger twists painfully now, sharp and insistent. You eat when food is offered, but it doesn't satisfy. It barely registers. Your body feels like it's consuming fuel that goes nowhere. That night, sleep doesn't come easily. When it does, it's shallow and broken. You dream of the rope again, of it pulling sideways, of your hands slipping, of sinking faster than you can control, stone dragging you down into black water that feels thick as mud. In the dream, you try to release the stone, and your fingers won't work. They feel numb, useless. You open your mouth to scream and swallow water instead. You wake choking, heart racing, sweat cold on your skin. The next morning, hunger is worse. The food supply hasn't changed. Your body has. It's burning more than it can replace. Every dive costs more. Every recovery gives less. The cold seeps in faster. The hallucinations return sooner. You find yourself thinking about the diver who died yesterday, about the one who nearly blacked out today, about the way the sea didn't change at all after taking someone. It didn't calm. It didn't rage. It just kept moving. That thought sticks with you. By the time you're back on the boat again, you realize something you don't want to admit. This isn't just fatigue. This is the beginning of starvation, of depletion, of a slow grind that strips away judgment first, then strength, then fear. You've been trained to respect panic, to recognize it as danger. But you're learning now that the absence of panic can be worse. Because when hunger and exhaustion hollow you out enough, the sea stops feeling like an enemy. It starts feeling like something you could rest in. And that thought, quiet, tempting, deadly, settles into you as the boat drifts back over dark water and you prepare to dive again. You wake already tired, but it's a different kind of tired now. Not just muscle and bone. It's behind your eyes, inside your head, like something has been dimmed slightly and never turned back up. The hunger is there, steady and gnawing, but it's no longer sharp. It's settled into you, become part of the background noise, like the sound of waves you stop noticing until they change. The sea has changed again. You can feel it before you see it. The air is damp and heavy, pressing against your skin. Sound carries oddly. Footsteps seem louder, closer. When you reach the shore, the water looks flat in a way that makes you uneasy. Not calm, smoothed over, like a lid placed on something restless. You eat because you're supposed to. You drink because dehydration kills quietly. None of it touches the emptiness inside you. Your hands shake slightly as you tie your cloth. You notice it and force them still. Tremors waste strength. Tremors make people notice. On the boat, the silence feels thicker than the fog drifting low over the water. The space left by the dead diver has stopped feeling fresh. It's become normal. That frightens you more than yesterday did. Loss is already being absorbed, folded into routine. You sit with the stone resting against your leg, cold soaking into you. It doesn't bother you as much as it used to. That's another thing you notice and don't like. Discomfort should register. Pain should warn you. Instead, everything feels slightly muted, as if your body has decided to conserve reaction. When the rope goes over the side, you watch it carefully. It slips into the water smoothly, vanishing faster than it should. The angle looks clean today, almost inviting. That makes you suspicious. You've learned enough to know the sea doesn't improve out of kindness. You breathe, slow, controlled, but the breath feels shallow no matter how deep you pull it. Your lungs don't seem to fill the way they used to. Or maybe they do, and your brain just doesn't register it properly anymore. You go in. Cold wraps you immediately, but it doesn't shock the way it should. Your skin prickles, then dulls. The stone pulls you down with familiar force, and for a few seconds there's almost relief in the speed. Falling is easier than holding yourself up. The light fades fast, faster than yesterday. At depth, the water feels wrong. Not rough, not pressing hard, just present, heavy in a way that feels intimate, close to your body, sliding over you instead of pushing against you. The pressure in your ears builds, but you barely notice until it spikes suddenly, sharp and painful. You clear it late, wincing, annoyed with yourself for missing the signal. On the bottom, visibility is poor. Silt hangs in the water like smoke. The current is gentler today, but inconsistent, shifting direction without warning. It nudges you one way, then another, as if testing how alert you are.
You start working. Your hands move slower than usual, but they move correctly. Muscle memory still functions even when your thoughts lag. You find shells by touch, pry them loose, drop them into the basket. The burn in your chest is there, but it feels distant, like it's happening to someone else. That's when you hear it. Not a sound through the water, not vibration through your ears. It feels like it's happening inside your head. A low, steady rhythm. It doesn't have words, it doesn't have melody. It's just a pulse, slow and even, matching neither your heartbeat nor the movement of the water. It feels older than both. You freeze. Stillness is instinctive now. Movement costs breath. Stillness lets you listen. The rhythm continues. You turn your head slightly, scanning the darkness. You see nothing unusual. Rock, weed, shadow, silt. The rope line hanging above you, fading upward into pale nothing. The rhythm deepens. For a moment, you think it might be the sea itself, some strange interaction of current and pressure. You try to rationalize it. But the sound isn't coming from outside. It's layered over your thoughts, threaded through them. It feels like something noticing you. Your chest tightens, not with panic, but with something closer to recognition. A strange sense of familiarity brushes against you, unsettling and intimate. Your body relaxes without your permission. Your shoulders drop. Your grip loosens slightly. This is dangerous. You force yourself to move. As you shift, the rhythm falters, then fades. Gone so completely it feels like it was never there. Your heart rate jumps, sudden and sharp, as if your body realized what your mind almost didn't. You surface early. The ascent feels longer than it should. The rope slips through your fingers with a texture that feels wrong, rougher than you remember. When you break the surface, your breath comes out in a long, shaky exhale, followed by a deep inhale that stings your lungs.
The air feels loud. Everything feels too bright, too sharp. The boot looms close, wood creaking, rope knocking against the hull. You cling to the line, steadying yourself, waiting for the lingering echo of that rhythm to return. It doesn't. No one asks why you surfaced early. They don't need to. Everyone is doing it now. Dives are shorter across the board. Baskets are lighter. The workday is stretching out with less to show for it, and that tension hangs over the boat like a low cloud. On the next dive, it happens again. Not immediately, not at the bottom. It starts midway through the descent, when the light is thinned but hasn't vanished completely. A whisper this time, just at the edge of perception. Not sound, intent. You feel watched. Not in the way you'd feel a predator, not threatening. Curious, patient. Your thoughts slow. You forget briefly what you were doing. You drift, stone pulling you down at a gentle angle, rope sliding through your hand. The water feels warm for a moment. Not physically, more like memory, like being wrapped in something familiar. Images surface in your mind unbidden. The shoreline at dusk, smoke curling up from cook fires, the sound of sandals on packed earth, the faces of people you know, softened, distant. The dead diver's face appears too, but not as you last saw it. Calm, relaxed, eyes closed as if asleep.
The burn in your chest flares suddenly, sharp and urgent, snapping you back. You gasp involuntarily and swallow water. Panic hits late and hard. You clamp your mouth shut, kicking, grabbing the rope. Your movements are sloppy, inefficient. You waste precious oxygen fighting your own disorientation. The rope burns your palm as you haul yourself upward, faster than you should, pressure screaming in your ears. You surface choking, coughing violently, chest spasming as your body tries to clear water and refill itself at the same time. Your vision blurs, dark spots swim across your sight. For a second, you're not sure you're upright. Hands grab you, steadying you against the boat. You cling to the gunwale, head down, breathing hard, every inhale a struggle. Salt burns your throat. Your heart feels like it's trying to escape your chest. Someone asks if you're all right. You nod automatically. You don't trust your voice. As the day goes on, the sea keeps speaking. Not to everyone, not all the time, but often enough that you start expecting it. Sometimes it's that low rhythm again. Sometimes it's something like your name being almost said, stretched thin and distorted, impossible to pin down. Sometimes it's just a feeling, an urge to stop moving, to stop struggling, to let yourself sink and listen. You recognize it for what it is. Your mind is slipping. Hunger, cold, exhaustion, grief, pressure, lack of oxygen, all of it stacking up, pushing your brain into a place where it starts inventing meaning to fill the gaps. You've been warned about this. You've seen it happen to others. Knowing doesn't stop it. On one dive, you don't remember releasing the stone. You're halfway up the rope before you realize the weight is gone. That scares you more than any hallucination. Missing memory is a sign you can't argue with. Your body is doing things without you now. You abort the dive completely. Back on the boat, you sit hunched, staring at the water dripping from your hands. The sea's surface ripples, catching the light in shifting patterns that almost look deliberate. You know better than to stare too long, but you can't stop yourself. For a moment, just a moment, you feel something like relief. Not safety, relief at the idea of stopping, at the idea of letting go of effort, of letting the water take over the work of breathing, of holding you, of quieting the constant ache in your chest and limbs. The thought is gentle, seductive, wrapped in images of rest and silence. That's when the fear finally arrives. Not sharp panic, cold clarity. You understand now why so many divers die without signs of struggle, why bodies are sometimes found calm, hands loose, faces peaceful. It's not always terror that kills. Sometimes it's acceptance arriving too early. You tear your eyes away from the water and force yourself to focus on the boat, on the people, on solid things: wood, rope, skin. You dig your fingernails into your palm until pain cuts through the fog. The day ends early again. On shore, the village feels unreal, like a place you're visiting rather than belonging to. Sounds echo oddly. Faces look flatter, less distinct. When someone speaks to you, it takes a second too long to understand the words. You answer anyway, guessing at what's appropriate. That night, the sea follows you into sleep. You dream you're underwater, but you don't need to breathe. You move effortlessly, stone gone, body light, drifting through blue darkness that feels endless and welcoming. The rhythm is there again, louder now, surrounding you, guiding you deeper. In the dream, you don't fight it. You wake, gasping, heart racing, lungs burning as if you'd actually been holding your breath. The room is dark, cold, silent except for your own breathing, loud and uneven. You sit up and press your hand to your chest, feeling your heart hammering beneath your ribs. You don't go back to sleep. Lying there, staring into the dark, you understand something fundamental has shifted. The sea is no longer just a place you work. It's inside your head now. It knows how tired you are, how hungry, how close you are to letting go. It doesn't need to drag you down with force. It just needs to keep whispering until you stop climbing back up. Tomorrow, you will dive again, and you will have to fight not just water and cold and current, but the quiet, insistent voice telling you that you don't have to. You wake before dawn with your heart already beating too fast. It feels like you've been running in your sleep. The hunger is there, but it's distant now, muted by something heavier pressing down on your chest. When you sit up, the room sways slightly. You wait for it to settle. It does, eventually, but the delay bothers you. Delays get people killed. Outside, the sea is quieter than it has been in days. That should comfort you. It doesn't. The silence feels deliberate, like something holding its breath. You dress slowly, deliberately. You force your hands to move with care. Cloth, knots, wraps. Each step is a checklist you refuse to rush. Your fingers still know what to do, even if your mind feels frayed at the edges. You focus on texture, pressure, resistance. You stay in your body because staying in your head feels dangerous now. At breakfast, no one talks about yesterday's hallucinations. No one mentions the way dives have been getting shorter, the baskets lighter, the eyes more distant. You all eat and drink like machines refueling, not like people sharing a meal. Someone coughs, and it sounds too loud in the small space. Someone else stares at their bowl long after it's empty. You go anyway. At the shore, the water lies flat and dark, barely rippling. Fog hangs low, blurring the horizon so sea and sky bleed into one another. The air smells heavy, salt and decay, and something faintly sweet underneath, like old kelp breaking down. Boats creak softly, as if shifting their weight. Ropes drip steadily, the sound slow and rhythmic, almost like a heartbeat. You notice who isn't there. The empty place on the boat has been filled by habit, tools set where a body used to sit, but the absence still pulls at your attention. You look away. Looking too long invites memories, and memories invite hesitation. The stone feels colder than ever against your leg. You breathe. In, out. Long exhales. Your heart resists slowing, but you don't force it. You've learned that forcing anything right now leads to mistakes. The rope goes over the side cleanly. No angle, no drag. It drops straight down into darkness. That should be a relief. It isn't. You go in with the others.
slipping beneath the surface one by one. Cold wraps you immediately, but it feels distant, like it's happening to someone else. The stone pulls you down fast. Light thins and disappears into gray-green murk. Your ears pressure, but you clear them without thinking. At the bottom, visibility is worse than yesterday. Silt hangs suspended, unmoving, as if the water itself has gone still. The current is barely there, just a faint push that changes direction unpredictably. You crouch low and start working by touch, fingers brushing rock, shell, weed. The burn in your chest is constant now. Not sharp, not urgent, just there, like a weight you're carrying inside. You find shells and drop them into the basket without counting. Counting feels pointless. Time feels strange down here, stretched and compressed at once. You don't know how long you've been working when you notice someone else's hand near yours. It startles you. Not because it explains it. It's normal to be close. Space is limited. But something about the way the hand moves feels wrong. Slow. Hesitant. You glance over. The diver beside you is still. Not frozen in fear, just still. Their body is angled slightly, stone resting on the bottom, rope slack in their hand. Their head is tilted, as if listening to something you can't hear. Their fingers have loosened around the line. You feel a jolt of alarm cut through the fog. You reach out and grab their arm. The skin feels cold through cloth, too cold. You shake them once, sharp and urgent. No response. You shake again, harder. Their head lolls slightly, eyes half-lidded, unfocused. Bubbles leak slowly from their mouth. Not the controlled release of someone working, but a weak, drifting spill. They're out. Your chest tightens violently. The burn flares into pain. Panic snaps close, sharp and immediate. You act anyway. You yank on their rope, hard, sending a signal upward. You grip their arm and try to pull them with you, but their body is heavy, uncooperative. The stone is still attached. You fumble for the release. Your fingers feel thick, clumsy. The knot doesn't come undone on the first try. The burn screams now. Your vision narrows. You force your hands to keep working. Finally, the stone drops. Their body jerks upwards slightly with the sudden loss of weight. You kick, hauling both of you toward the surface, one hand on the rope, the other locked around their arm. Your movements are sloppy. You're burning through oxygen too fast, but you don't slow down. There's no time. The ascent feels endless. Your chest feels like it's collapsing inward. Your throat spasms. You taste salt. Dark spots bloom at the edges of your vision. You hold on anyway, driven by something raw and desperate that cuts through exhaustion and hunger and fear. When you break the surface, you explode into air. You cough violently, barely able to breathe, lungs seizing as they try to refill. Hands grab both of you, hauling you over the side. You collapse onto the deck, gasping, chest heaving painfully. They lay the other diver flat. Water pours from their mouth and nose when they move them. Their skin is pale, lips bluish, eyes half open but empty. Someone clears their airway. Someone presses on their chest. Someone calls their name, loud and urgent. You lie on your side, shaking uncontrollably, trying to breathe, trying not to pass out. Your vision swims. Sounds come and go, muffled and distorted, like you're underwater again. They work fast, faster than yesterday, more urgent. This one came up with help. That matters. That means there's a chance. You watch through blurred vision as hands move with practiced desperation. Pressure. Release. Again. Water splashes onto the deck. Someone breathes into their mouth, sharp and forceful. Their chest rises slightly, then falls. Nothing. They try again. Your breathing slowly comes under control, but your chest still burns with every inhale. You push yourself up onto an elbow, forcing your eyes to focus. The sea laps against the hull, gentle and indifferent. After what feels like too long, there's a convulsion. The diver coughs. Just once. Weak, but real. A collective exhale ripples through the boat. Someone curses softly. Someone else presses a hand to their chest, feeling for movement. More coughing follows, ragged and painful, but alive. They're alive, barely. They don't sit up, they don't speak, they just lie there, gasping shallowly, eyes unfocused, body twitching with aftershocks. They won't dive again today. Maybe not for a long time. Maybe never. The boat turns back toward shore immediately. No one argues, no one suggests continuing. The sea has taken enough for one morning. As you move, you realize your hands are bleeding. Rope burn has opened them again, deeper this time. Thin streams of red mix with salt water, stinging sharply. You barely notice. Your whole body feels hollowed out, like something essential has been scooped from the inside. On the way back, no one talks. The rescued diver lies covered, chest rising and falling unevenly. You keep glancing at them, half expecting the movement to stop. Every time it doesn't, relief hits you in small, delayed waves. When you reach shore, people are waiting. Word travels fast here. The injured diver is carried off carefully. Others gather around, murmuring quietly. You step aside, legs shaky, head pounding. Someone presses a cup of warm liquid into your hands. You drink because you're told to, barely tasting it. Later, you hear that they survived the day. That's all anyone says. Survived the day. The rest is uncertain. You don't go back out. Instead, you sit on the shore and watch the water move, slow and steady, as if nothing happened. Boats bob gently. Ropes drip. Gulls cry overhead, sharp and unconcerned. You think about the diver who died earlier in the week, about the one who almost died today, about how close you came to joining them when your vision narrowed and your chest burned and your body begged you to stop fighting. You think about how easy it would have been to let go, to loosen your grip, to drift. That thought terrifies you more than the near death itself, because you didn't feel fear in the moment. You felt urgency, purpose, focus. Fear came later. That night, exhaustion hits you like a blow. You eat, but it barely touches the hunger. Your hands throb with pain now that adrenaline has faded. Your chest aches deeply, every breath a reminder of how hard you pushed it. When you lie down, your body sinks into the bedding like it's finally giving up the fight to stay upright. Sleep comes fast. It doesn't bring rest.
You dream you're underwater again, but this time you're not alone. Figures drift nearby, indistinct shapes moving slowly through the dark. Some of them turn toward you. Their faces are calm, familiar. You recognize them. The one who died, the one who almost did. Others you can't quite place. They don't reach for you. They just watch. You wake with a gasp, heart pounding, lungs burning as if you've surfaced too late again. The room is dark and cold. Your breath fogs in front of you. You sit there for a long time, listening to the sea in the distance. You understand something now that you didn't before. Death out there isn't always violent. It isn't always dramatic. Sometimes it's quiet. A slack hand, a drifting body, a moment where the fight simply stops. And sometimes survival isn't about strength or skill or courage. Sometimes it's about who happens to be close enough to grab you before you slip too far. Tomorrow, you will dive again, but you will do it carrying the weight of the one who didn't come back and the one who almost didn't. And you know, with a certainty that sits cold and heavy in your gut, that not everyone will be saved next time. You wake with your mouth dry and your body unwilling to move. It feels like gravity has increased overnight, pressing you deeper into the bedding, pinning you there. For a few seconds you lie still, staring at the ceiling, trying to remember why everything hurts this much. Then memory catches up, slow and heavy, and the weight in your chest settles back into place. Today feels wrong before it begins. Your limbs respond late when you finally sit up. There's a lag between command and action, just long enough to notice. Your hands tremble openly now. You don't bother trying to hide it while you dress. There's no one to impress. The sea doesn't care how steady you look. Hunger is no longer sharp or demanding. It's hollow, empty in a way that feels permanent, like something has been removed rather than used up. You eat because you know you should, but the food barely registers as food. It's texture, motion, fuel poured into a machine that's already overheating. Outside, the air is still, too still. The sea lies flat again, dark and smooth, reflecting the sky like dull metal. No wind, no chop, just slow, heavy movement underneath, visible only in the way the surface subtly shifts, as if breathing.
You've learned by now that this is when it's worst. On the walk to the shore, your legs feel weak, almost spongy. Each step takes effort. Your head throbs faintly in time with your heartbeat. You tell yourself to slow down, to conserve energy, but everything already feels slow. There's no reserve left to draw from. At the boat, the stone waits. You lift it and almost drop it. Your grip slips unexpectedly, fingers failing you for a split second. The stone jerks downward, yanking your arm painfully before you recover. The shock sends a flare of adrenaline through you, sharp and unpleasant. Your heart jumps. Your breathing stutters. You steady yourself and try again. This time you manage it, but the message is clear. Your body is unreliable now. No one comments. They noticed. Everyone did. No one needs to say it out loud. The boat moves out over the dark water, rocking gently. The quiet is oppressive. No gulls cry. No wind hums in the rigging. Even the slap of water against the hull seems muted, distant. It feels like you're being allowed to approach something that's waiting patiently. You sit and breathe, but your breaths feel shallow no matter how you pace them. Your lungs feel stiff, less elastic. Each inhale takes effort. Each exhale feels incomplete. When the rope goes over, it sinks fast. Straight down. No angle, no resistance. You stare at it longer than you should. You know better than to trust this. You go in anyway. The cold feels distant at first, then suddenly overwhelming, as if it waited a second too long to hit you properly. Your skin prickles, then goes numb in patches. The stone pulls you down with familiar force, but your descent feels uncontrolled, sloppy. Your body lags behind the movement, slow to adjust. Pressure builds in your ears, and you're late clearing it. Pain spikes, sharp and disorienting, making you flinch underwater. You force yourself to correct it, jaw clenched, annoyance flaring at yourself for missing such a basic thing. At the bottom, the darkness feels thicker than before. Visibility is almost nothing. Silt hangs unmoving, suspended like fog. The rope disappears above you within a few meters. The world shrinks to arm's length and touch. The burn in your chest is immediate. Not a warning anymore, a presence. You work anyway. Your hands scrape along rock, finding shells by feel alone. Everything feels dull, distant. Your fingers don't seem to register texture properly. You have to look directly at what you're touching to understand it. That wastes time. That wastes breath. You drop a shell and don't bother retrieving it. You tell yourself it's not worth it, that you're conserving energy. The truth is, you don't trust your coordination enough to reach for it. The silence down here is heavy. No sound, no movement, just your own heartbeat thudding in your ears, too loud, too fast. It feels disconnected from your body, like you're hearing someone else's heart through the water. Then the sea speaks again. This time, it doesn't whisper. It surrounds you. The low rhythm is back, stronger, clearer, pulsing through your skull in a way that feels almost physical. It syncs with nothing you recognize, not your breath, not your heart. It just exists, steady and patient. You feel your shoulders drop, your grip loosens. A wave of calm washes through you so sudden it's almost shocking. The burn in your chest fades to a dull pressure. The ache in your limbs recedes. Even the hunger quiets. For the first time you feel fine. Better than fine. You feel held. The thought surfaces without effort. You can rest here. You don't have to fight. You don't have to rush back up into cold air that hurts your lungs and noise that grates on your nerves and hunger that never ends. Down here, everything is simple, slow, quiet. You find yourself drifting slightly, knees loosening, body sinking lower as if preparing to kneel. A shape moves at the edge of your vision. You turn slowly, unafraid. It's another diver. They're upright, hovering just above the bottom, stone resting lightly below them. Their posture is wrong, too relaxed, too still. Their head is tilted back, face angled upward, eyes half open and unfocused. They look peaceful. The rhythm pulses stronger. You recognize them. A friend. Someone you've worked beside for years. Someone whose breathing you know, whose habits you understand. You start to reach for them, not urgently, not in panic, just to touch, to get their attention. Your hand moves slowly as if through syrup. Your fingers brush their arm. It's limp. Cold. Too cold. Something snaps inside you. The calm shatters violently, replaced by sudden, brutal clarity. The burn in your chest roars back, sharper than ever. Your heart slams hard against your ribs. Panic surges late and overwhelming. They're gone. Not gone as in dead yet, but gone as in not here anymore. Their body is present. Their mind is not. You grab them hard and shake. No response. Bubbles leak from their mouth, slow and lazy, the last of their air escaping uselessly. Their grip on the rope is slack. The stone is still attached. You yank on their rope with everything you have.
Your vision narrows dangerously. You force your hands to work, teeth clenched so hard your jaw aches. Finally, the stone drops. Their body lifts slightly, buoyancy taking over. You wrap an arm around their chest and kick upward, hauling both of you toward the surface. The ascent is agony. Your lungs scream. Your chest feels like it's going to collapse inward. Dark spots swarm your vision. Your legs feel weak, barely responding. You're moving too fast, you know it, but slowing down feels impossible. Halfway up, your grip slips. Your fingers lose purchase on their cloth for a terrifying moment. They start to drift away from you, body tilting, rolling slightly in the water. You lunge after them, wasting precious oxygen, grabbing their shoulder just in time. The effort costs you dearly. Your throat spasms. You feel the unmistakable urge to inhale. You clamp down and keep moving. When you break the surface, you don't come up clean. You choke immediately, sucking in a mix of air and water. Your body convulses, coughing violently. Hands grab both of you, hauling you over the side in a tangle of limbs and rope. You collapse onto the deck, chest heaving, vision blacking out at the edges. They lay your friend flat. Water pours from their mouth and nose as they're moved. Their face is pale, lips blue. Their eyes are open but empty, staring at nothing. Someone clears their airway. Someone presses on their chest. Someone calls their name, loud and sharp. You lie on your side, gasping, shaking uncontrollably, barely aware of your own body anymore. Every breath feels like it's scraping your lungs raw. They work, harder than before, faster, but something is wrong. There's no response, no coughing, no twitch, no sign of consciousness returning. They keep trying anyway. Pressure, release, again. Again, the movements start to look desperate instead of practiced. You watch, helpless, as the realization spreads quietly across the boat. Too long. They were under too long. Eventually, the hands slow, then stop. No one says anything at first. The sea laps gently against the hull, soft and rhythmic. The contrast is unbearable. Someone covers the body, just like that. You turn your face away and retch, dry and painful, your stomach empty of anything useful. Nothing comes up. Your body just convulses uselessly, adding humiliation to grief. The boat turns back toward shore immediately. No debate, no hesitation. This day is over. As you drift back, you stare at your hands. They're shaking badly now. The cuts and rope burns look worse than they did this morning, red and angry against pale skin. You don't feel them. You barely feel anything at all.
On shore, the village gathers again. This time, there's no frantic urgency, no hopeful tension. The body is carried off with practiced care. People step aside quietly. Faces are set, resigned. This has happened before. It will happen again. You stand there, swaying slightly, unable to move, unable to look away from the path they took. You realize something with sickening clarity. If you hadn't snapped out of it when you did, if that calm had lasted a few seconds longer, you would be the one being carried. You felt it, the ease, the relief, the way the sea didn't feel hostile in that moment, but welcoming, patient, kind. That scares you more than the death itself. Later, when you finally sit alone, your body crashes hard. Exhaustion hits you like a wall. Your limbs feel leaden. Your head throbs. Your chest aches deeply with every breath. Hunger returns suddenly, sharp and vicious, but the thought of food makes you nauseous. You don't sleep much that night. When you do, the dreams are worse. You dream of sinking again, but this time you don't fight. You watch the surface recede calmly. You feel the pressure build and don't bother clearing it. You let the rhythm carry you deeper, surrounding you, filling you with quiet. In the dream, you see your friend drifting ahead of you, turning once to look back. They don't look angry. They don't look afraid. They look rested. You wake with a sob stuck in your throat, heart racing, lungs burning as if you've been holding your breath in real life. Lying there in the dark, shaking, you finally understand the true peak of suffering isn't the cold, with a hunger, with a fear. It's this, the knowledge that part of you wants to go back down, that part of you remembers how easy it felt to stop struggling, and that tomorrow, if you go out again, you will have to fight not just exhaustion and depth and darkness, but the memory of how close you came to choosing the deep blue over another painful breath. You wake before the light, before the village stirs, before your body is ready to exist again. For a moment, you don't remember where you are. Then the ache settles in, deep in your chest, along your spine, behind your eyes, and everything comes back at once. Today is wrong in a different way. Not loud wrong, not obviously dangerous. Quiet wrong, final wrong. You sit up slowly, waiting for the dizziness. It comes, steady and patient, a slow roll that makes the room tilt and breathe. You keep your eyes fixed on the floor until it passes. Your hands are still shaking. They've been shaking since yesterday. You flex your fingers and feel pain bloom from the rope burns, sharp enough to anchor you for a second. Hunger doesn't announce itself anymore. It's just there, a hollow ache that feels less like need and more like damage. You eat anyway. The food tastes like nothing. You chew because chewing is familiar, because stopping would require a decision, and you don't trust your decisions anymore. Outside, the sea is calm, perfectly calm. No wind, no chop, no obvious threat. The surface stretches out smooth and dark, reflecting the sky like a mirror dulled with oil. This is the kind of morning that used to feel like a gift. Now it feels like a trap that's already been sprung.
You don't want to go. The thought arrives fully formed, calm and undeniable. You don't want to go back out there. Not because you're afraid of dying. That fear burned itself out days ago. You don't want to go because you know how close you are to not caring anymore. Because you know the sea knows it too. You dress anyway. Habit carries you when willpower doesn't. Cloth wrapped tight, knots tied by hands that don't quite feel like yours. You pause over the stone longer than usual, staring at it as if it might say something back. It's just a rock, heavy, honest, uninterested in your thoughts. On the walk to the shore, the village feels distant, unreal. Sounds arrive late, faces blur slightly around the edges. Someone touches your arm in passing and you flinch harder than you mean to. Your nerves are raw, stretched thin. The boat waits. There are fewer people on it now. Too many injuries, too many dead. No one comments. The absence has become normal, and that realization lands in you like a punch you don't have the energy to block. You sit. The stone rests against your leg, cold seeping into bone. You breathe, trying to slow your heart, but it doesn't listen. It beats heavy and uneven, like it's already tired of its job. The rope goes over. Straight down. Perfect. You hate it. Every lesson you've learned screams at you that this is the most dangerous state the sea can be in. When it looks like this, it's not empty, it's waiting. You tell yourself one dive, just one. You'll keep it short. You'll stay shallow. You'll come back up early. You've told yourself this before. It didn't help then either. You go in. The water closes over your head without resistance. Cold seeps in slowly this time, creeping instead of striking. It feels almost gentle. Your body sinks, stone pulling you down, and for a terrifying moment it feels right, like slipping into a familiar place. You clamp down on the thought and focus on mechanics. Grip the rope, control the descent, clear your ears. You're late, again. Pain flashes sharp and white behind your eyes as pressure builds too fast. You clear it with effort, jaw clenched, irritated with yourself. Small mistakes, accumulating. At depth, the world is dim and quiet and close. Visibility is poor but workable. Silt drifts lazily, disturbed by your arrival. The bottom feels nearer than it should, as if the sea has compressed itself. You land awkwardly, stone shifting before settling. You crouch, steadying yourself. The burn in your chest is immediate, worse than yesterday. Your lungs feel stiff, resistant, like they don't want to expand properly. Each second stretches uncomfortably long. You tell yourself to work anyway, to make this dive count, because that's what you've always done. Your hands move slowly over rock. You find a shell and pry it loose with clumsy fingers. It slips once, twice before you get it. The effort costs you more breath than it should. You drop it into the basket and don't feel any satisfaction. You realize you're counting your heartbeats instead of your breaths. That's new. The rhythm starts again. Not faint, not subtle, clear. It fills the water around you, pulses through your skull, steady and deep. It doesn't startle you anymore. It feels expected, like the next step in a process you've already agreed to. Your shoulders relax. Your grip loosens. The burn fades slightly, enough to notice. The ache in your limbs softens. Even the pressure in your chest feels manageable now, distant. A thought forms, slow and gentle. You don't have to rush. You're tired. Anyone would be tired. You can stay just a little longer. You straighten without realizing it, shifting from a crouch to an upright position. The stone rests solidly beneath you. The rope hangs slack in your hand. You're no longer working. You're just there. A shape moves in front of you. At first you think it's silt shifting, then it resolves into something familiar. A body. Another diver. They're suspended in the water, a few feet away, upright and motionless. Their cloth drifts gently. Their hair floats loose around their face. Their eyes are open. They look at you. No accusation, no fear. Recognition. They don't move their mouth, but you hear them anyway, not as words, but as certainty. It's all right. You feel tears sting your eyes underwater, absurd and useless. Your throat tightens, not from lack of air, but from something that feels like relief. This is what the sea has been offering you all along, not violence, not force, an ending that doesn't hurt. Your fingers slip off the rope. The moment stretches. You start to drift downward. The stone pulls gently, insistently. The water cradles you. The rhythm deepens, surrounds you, becomes everything. Your thoughts slow to a crawl. The surface feels distant, irrelevant, like a story you once heard but no longer need to remember. Then, pain. Sharp and sudden and real. Your wrist jerks violently as something grabs you. The shock rips through the fog in your head like a blade. Your body snaps into motion, instinct screaming. Your grip tightens reflexively around whatever has hold of you. It's the rope. No. Hands. Strong, desperate, alive. Someone has grabbed you from above, hauled themselves down despite the cost, and caught you just as you started to sink. The movement sends silt exploding around you. The rhythm shatters, breaking apart into nothing. Your chest convulses. The burn roars back, ferocious and undeniable. Your throat spasms. Panic slams into you, late but absolute. You are out of time. They yank you upward hard, not caring about smooth ascent, not caring about pressure. You cling to them instinctively, fingers digging into cloth, into flesh. Your legs kick weakly, barely contributing. The ascent is chaos. Water rushes past. Pressure screams in your ears. Your vision collapses into darkness around a bright, distant patch of light. Your lungs feel like they're tearing themselves apart. You know, coldly, clearly, that if you don't reach air in the next few seconds, you will not come back.
The surface explodes around you. You inhale water, then air, then water again. Your body convulses violently, coughing, choking, retching as you're dragged over the side of the boat. You hit the deck hard, pain flaring through your ribs and shoulder. Hands are everywhere, holding you down, turning you on your side as your lungs fight to empty themselves. You cough until it feels like your chest will split. Your vision flickers in and out. The world comes in fragments, wood beneath your cheek, the sound of water sloshing, someone shouting your name, another voice swearing. Air burns your lungs like fire. You breathe anyway, over and over. Slowly, the blackness recedes. You become aware of shaking, uncontrollable, violent shivering that racks your whole body. Someone wraps something around you, cloth, blanket, rope. You don't know. It doesn't matter. You clutch at it with numb fingers. You're alive. That fact arrives slowly, like something you're not sure you're allowed to keep. They tell you later what happened, how they saw your rope go slack, how someone didn't wait, didn't think, just went down after you despite exhaustion and hunger and everything they knew about the risk. How they found you drifting, eyes open, not struggling at all. How close it was. Too close. You don't remember agreeing to stop fighting. That's the part that stays with you. Back on shore, your legs won't hold you. You're carried most of the way, your body dead weight in their arms. The village blurs past, faces pale, eyes wide, mouths tight with things they don't say. You're laid down somewhere warm. Someone presses a cup to your lips. You drink automatically. Your hands shake so badly the liquid sloshes onto your chest. No one scolds you. No one looks away either. You stare at the ceiling, breathing shallowly, each inhale still painful but real. The rhythm from the deep is gone, but its absence feels loud. You realize, with a slow, creeping horror, that if no one had grabbed you, you wouldn't have fought. You wouldn't have panicked. You would have gone quietly. That night, sleep doesn't come. When you close your eyes, you feel the water again, the weight, the calm, the ease of letting go. You sit up, gasping more than once, heart racing, convinced you're sinking again. At some point before dawn, exhaustion wins. You dream of the surface, not the deep. The surface, seen from below, light, fractured, and distant. In the dream, you're swimming toward it, but slowly, carefully, with intention. Each stroke costs something, but you make it anyway. You wake with tears on your face and no memory of crying. You understand now. This was the climax, not the rescue, not the near death, the moment you almost chose not to live. And as you lie there, battered and alive, one truth settles in with brutal clarity. Surviving the sea isn't just about getting back to air. It's about deciding, again and again, that the pain of breathing is still worth it. You wake to pain.
Not sharp, not sudden, just everywhere. A deep, spreading ache that makes it hard to tell where one part of your body ends and another begins. Your chest feels bruised from the inside out. Every breath drags against something raw. Your throat burns like it's been scraped clean. When you try to move, your muscles protest immediately, locking up, reminding you how close they came to failing completely. You are alive. That realization doesn't bring relief the way you expect it to. It lands heavy, complicated, tangled with images you can't push away. Dark water, slack rope, the calm, the ease. You force your eyes open. The ceiling above you is low and familiar, wood darkened by years of smoke and salt. Light filters in weakly through a small opening, gray and cold. You're not on the boat, you're back on land, back in the village, back in a body that still breathes whether you want it to or not. Your breathing is shallow and uneven. Each inhale stings, each exhale rattles faintly in your chest. You focus on it anyway, counting, forcing yourself to stay present. You've learned what happens when you drift. Someone notices you're awake. Movement enters the edge of your vision. A shape leans closer. You don't turn your head. Turning feels like too much effort. You recognize the presence by sound alone, the soft shift of weight, the careful way they breathe near you, as if afraid to disturb something fragile. You are told to stay still. You don't argue. You couldn't if you wanted to. Your hands lie limp at your sides, wrapped in fresh cloth. When you try to flex your fingers, they respond late and clumsily. Pain blooms along your palms where rope burned skin raw. The memory flashes sharp and unwanted, fiber biting, grip slipping, water swallowing everything. Your stomach twists violently. You swallow and force it down. Time moves strangely after that. Moments stretch long and empty, then collapse into nothing. You drift in and out of shallow sleep, never sinking deep enough to rest. Each time you close your eyes, the sea presses back in, waiting. Each time you open them, the ache in your chest reminds you that breathing is still a task, not a given. You are given water in small amounts. It tastes like metal and smoke and something faintly sweet. You drink because your mouth is too dry to refuse. It soothes your throat for a moment, then the burn returns. You cough weakly once, and it feels like knives in your ribs. They tell you what happened. Not all at once, in fragments, carefully, like they're trying not to break something already cracked. They tell you someone saw your rope go slack. They tell you someone didn't wait. They tell you they followed it down even though they were exhausted, even though they knew what it might cost. They tell you how close it was, how still you were, how your eyes were open. They don't tell you what your face looked like. You don't ask. The weight of it settles into you slowly. Not gratitude yet, something heavier. A kind of shame that has nothing to do with blame and everything to do with understanding how close you came to choosing nothing at all. You turn your head slightly and see them, the one who grabbed you. They sit nearby, slumped against the wall, wrapped in cloth, face drawn and pale. Their hands are bandaged too. Their breathing is shallow, careful. They look worse than you feel, and that realization hits hard. You didn't save yourself. Someone spent their breath on you. That thought digs in deep, sharp and painful. Outside, the village moves on. You hear footsteps pass, voices murmur. Life continues in its muted, practical way. There is no celebration, no dramatic relief. Survival is not an event here. It's an interruption. Work will resume when bodies allow it. The sea will still be there tomorrow. But you will not. Not like before.
When you're strong enough to sit up, they help you do it slowly. The movement sends a wave of dizziness through you. The tillum tilts. You grip the edge of the bedding hard, knuckles white, until it steadies. Sweat breaks out along your spine despite the cold.
They place a thicker cloth around your shoulders. The warmth feels wrong at first, too much, like a lie. Your body has grown used to cold and effort and pain. Comfort feels suspicious, undeserved. You listen as they talk quietly nearby. They talk about the sea like it's weather, about how calm it looked, about how deceptive that calm was, about the current underneath, the way it held and didn't let go, about the diver who died yesterday and the one before that, and how close the count is getting to what the village can bear this season. No one raises their voice. No one curses the ocean. This is not anger. This is accounting. Later, when you're left alone for a while, the silence presses in. Without the rhythm of waves or the demands of work, your mind turns inward whether you want it to or not. You replay the moment over and over. The slack rope, the drift, the calm, the absence of fear. That's what frightens you the most now. You were not overwhelmed. You were not trapped. You let go. The realization sits heavy and ugly in your chest. You don't frame it as weakness. You frame it as exhaustion, hunger, cold, grief, all the things that wore you down piece by piece. But underneath all that is the truth you can't escape. When the sea offered rest, part of you accepted. That part is still there. That night, the rescue finishes unfolding in your body. Pain intensifies as adrenaline fades completely. Your chest tightens. Each breath becomes work again. You cough until tears blur your vision. Someone comes to sit with you, steady and quiet, making sure you don't slip back into darkness without noticing. You don't sleep much. When you do, it's shallow and fractured. Dreams come in flashes, rope sliding through your hands, the stone dropping, the moment of weightlessness before everything went quiet. You replay the moment over and over. The slack rope, the drift, the calm, the absence of fear. That's what frightens you the most now. You were not overwhelmed. You were not trapped. You let go. You understand something then, lying there battered and awake. Rescue is not an ending. It's a return, a forced return to a body that still hurts, a life that still demands, a future that hasn't softened just because you almost died. The sea didn't lose today. It simply didn't take everything. You will carry that moment forever. The hands on your wrist, the sudden pain, the air tearing back into your lungs, the knowledge that survival was not inevitable. It was borrowed. And as the light slowly creeps back into the room, gray and unforgiving, you realize the hardest part hasn't even begun. You are alive. Now you have to live with what you almost chose not to be. You wake long before you're meant to. Not with a jolt, not with panic. You wake because your body refuses to sink any deeper. Your eyes open to darkness, and for a moment you don't move. You listen instead. To your own breathing, shallow, careful. To the faint creak of the house settling. To the distant, constant sound of the sea. It's louder at night, you realize, or maybe there's just nothing left to drown it out. Sleep will not come back. You know that immediately. Your chest still aches with every breath, a dull, internal soreness that never fully fades. It feels like your lungs were scraped raw and hastily put back in place. When you inhale too deeply, pain flares along your ribs, sharp enough to make you stop. Your body has learned a new boundary, and it enforces it without mercy. You lie still because moving feels dangerous. In the dark, Memory creeps in. Not the dramatic parts, not the rescue, not the hands grabbing you. The quiet part, the moment before, the slack in the rope, the drift, the calm. That's what your mind keeps circling, like a tongue worrying a loose tooth. You don't replay it as fear. You replay it as curiosity, as analysis, as something unfinished. You remember how easy it felt, how your body stopped fighting before you told it to, how the pain faded first, then the urgency, then the need. That scares you more than the thought of dying ever did. You turn onto your side slowly, careful of your ribs. The bedding rustles softly. Your muscles protest, stiff and weak, as if they don't fully trust you anymore. Maybe they shouldn't. Outside, the wind moves across the village, carrying the smell of salt and wet wood through cracks in the walls. The scent hits you harder than it should. Your stomach tightens, not with hunger this time, but with something closer to nausea. Your body remembers the sea even when you're not in it. You try to empty your mind. It doesn't work. Thoughts arrive uninvited, drifting in like silt in still water. Faces surface. The diver who died earlier in the week. The friend you couldn't save yesterday. The one who almost died the day before. The one who saved you. You wonder what they see when they close their eyes. You wonder if they remember how close you were to letting go. That thought fills you with a shame that has no clear shape, no sharp edge. Just wait. You weren't brave. You weren't strong. You were tired. And tired people make quiet decisions that look peaceful from the outside. You sit up slowly, pushing yourself upright with one hand braced against the floor. The movement sends a wave of dizziness through you. You pause, breathing shallowly, waiting for the room to steady. It does, eventually, but the delay feels longer than it used to. You swing your legs over the side and plant your feet on the cold floor.
The chill bites into your skin, grounding you. You welcome it. Pain that makes sense is easier to manage than pain that doesn't. You sit there in the dark, hunched slightly, shoulders rounded, listening to the sea and wondering how something so familiar can feel so hostile now. Or maybe it always was, and you just didn't notice. You try to remember the last time you slept deeply. You can't. Even before the rescue, sleep had been shallow, broken by hunger and cold and dreams of sinking. Now it feels impossible. Every time your mind starts to drift, your body jerks it back, as if afraid you won't return. You understand this instinctively. Your body learned something down there. It learned that drifting is dangerous, that stillness can kill. That lesson doesn't fade easily. When dawn finally starts to creep in, it doesn't bring relief. The light is weak, gray, filtered through cloud and mist. It makes everything look flat and tired. You watch it spread across the room slowly, revealing the familiar shapes of your life. Buckets, cloth, tools, things that once felt solid and grounding. Now they feel temporary. You eat when food is brought to you. You chew slowly, mechanically. Your jaw aches. Your throat is still raw, and swallowing hurts more than it should. The food sits heavy in your stomach, uncomfortable, but you keep it down. You know better than to let yourself weaken further. People come and go quietly. They don't linger. They ask how you're feeling, but the question isn't really a question. It's a check mark. Alive, breathing, not actively drowning. Good enough. You answer the way you're supposed to. You say you're fine. The word feels meaningless. You don't go to the shore that day. You can hear the boats leave without you, the sound of wood against water, of ropes sliding, of distant voices carried faintly on the air. Each sound pulls at something inside you, not longing, not relief, unease. You imagine the water closing over their heads. You imagine the ropes sinking. You imagine the calm returning.
Your hands shake slightly without the work to occupy them. You press them flat against your thighs and force them still. You breathe slowly, counting just like you were taught. It helps a little, not enough. When night comes again, you dread it. Darkness feels too much like depth now. Quiet feels like pressure. You lie down anyway, exhausted beyond reason, and stare up at the ceiling as shadows stretch and shift. Every sound outside makes you tense. Every gust of wind sounds like water moving against the hull. When you finally sleep, it's brief and brutal. You dream you're underwater again, but this time there is no panic, no burn, no urgency. You're drifting, upright, stone resting lightly beneath you. The rope hangs slack. The light above is distant but visible. You know you could climb it if you wanted to. You just don't want to. The rhythm pulses around you, steady and soothing. The sea feels warm, familiar. You think of all the days you spent down here, all the effort, all the pain, and you wonder why you ever fought it so hard. In the dream, someone reaches out to you, not urgently, gently. You wake gasping, heart racing, lungs burning as if you actually tried to inhale water. You sit up abruptly, coughing, clutching at your chest. It takes long seconds before you realize you're safe, on land, breathing air, alone in a quiet room. Your hands are shaking badly now. You press them together, knuckles white, and wait for it to pass. It doesn't pass quickly.
The rest of the night is spent awake, staring into darkness, listening to the sea, and trying to convince yourself that you want to stay above it. Morning comes again, and with it a strange realization. You are afraid of sleeping, not of dying in your sleep, of resting too deeply, of letting go even a little, because you don't trust yourself anymore. You don't trust that if you drift, you'll fight your way back. Days pass like this. Your body heals slowly. The pain in your chest eases from sharp to dull. Your hands scab over, then crack again. Strength returns in pieces, uneven and unreliable, but your mind does not follow the same schedule. The sea doesn't speak to you directly anymore. That's worse. The absence feels like waiting, like it's given you space, not because it's done with you, but because it knows you'll be back. You find yourself standing near the shore sometimes, watching the water without realizing you walked there. The surface glints dully in the light. It looks ordinary, harmless. That's when the fear hits hardest, because you remember how harmless it felt right before it almost took you. You startle easily now. A sudden noise, a hand on your shoulder, the smell of salt when the wind shifts. Your body reacts before your mind can catch up, muscles tensing, breath hitching, heart racing. People notice. They don't comment. They don't need to. You've seen this look in others before. The ones who survived something the sea didn't finish. The ones who kept working but never quite the same way again. The ones whose eyes lingered too long on the horizon. Now you understand them. At night, lying awake again, you finally name the truth you've been circling. You are not afraid of the sea. You are afraid of how tired you are. Afraid of how close exhaustion came to convincing you that stopping was reasonable. Afraid of the part of you that found comfort in surrender. That part hasn't gone away. It waits. You know this because when you imagine diving again, your chest tightens, not with terror, but with a complicated mix of dread and familiarity. You know exactly how it would feel, the cold, the pressure, the rhythm. You know how easy it would be to misjudge one breath, to stay just a little too long. That's the real wound. Not the bruised lungs, not the rope burns, not even the death you witnessed. It's the knowledge that survival is not guaranteed by skill alone, that at some point, staying alive becomes a choice you have to keep making, even when you're empty, especially when you're empty.
As the nights stretch on, sleep coming only in fragments, you begin to understand why so many divers leave the sea without ever really leaving it. Why some of them wake in the night years later, heart racing, convinced they're sinking again.
The ocean doesn't just take bodies. It takes certainty. It takes the assumption that you'll always fight. You lie awake, listening to the waves roll in and out, steady and unbothered, and you realize the aftermath is not loud. It's quiet. It's this: the long nights, the shallow sleep, the fear of rest, the memory of how peaceful it almost was. And as dawn approaches once more, light creeping in gray and cold, you understand the final cruelty of survival. You made it back to shore, but the deep followed you home. You wake to daylight again, and this time it feels permanent. Not comforting, not hopeful, just unavoidable. Your body is stronger now. The sharp pain in your chest has faded into something dull and manageable. Your hands have healed enough to grip without reopening. Your balance has mostly returned. On the surface, you look like someone who survived and moved on. But the first thing you do every morning, before thought, before choice, is check your breathing. You inhale slowly, carefully, as if the air might disappear if you rush it. You exhale even slower, listening to the sound, feeling the resistance in your chest. Only when the breath completes do you allow yourself to continue. This has become automatic, a ritual you never learned on purpose. You do not dive again. Not immediately, not for a long time. The village does not shame you for it. They don't praise you either. They understand what happened, in the quiet, unspoken way people here understand most things. You are alive. That is enough for now. Others have gone back out. Others have not returned. The sea keeps its rhythm regardless of individual choices. Work finds you in other forms: repairing nets, carrying loads, helping haul boats when the tide turns ugly. Your muscles relearned usefulness without water pressing in from all sides. You sweat on land. You ache on land. You sleep badly on land. And yet, every day, your eyes drift to the water. You can't help it. The sea looks the same as it always did. Gray-blue most days, darker when clouds hang low, shimmering when the sun finds a gap. It doesn't look cruel. It never did. That's part of the problem. You stand at the shore sometimes and watch the divers prepare. You see the careful tying of cloth, the checking of ropes, the familiar movements burned into muscle memory. You see younger bodies with untested lungs of unscarred hands, eager in a way you no longer recognize. You want to warn them, but you don't know how to put it into words that wouldn't sound like superstition or weakness. You know now that the danger isn't just depth. It's repetition. It's hunger layered on hunger, cold layered on cold, loss layered on loss. Until one day, the fight slips quietly out of you, and you don't notice until it's almost too late. You carry that knowledge like a second spine. At night, sleep comes more often now, but it's never clean. You still wake sometimes with your heart racing, convinced you're sinking. Other nights you dream of the surface, of light breaking through water, fractured and distant, and the slow, exhausting climb back toward it. You wake sore and sweating, breath shallow, and remind yourself where you are. Above water, above ground, alive. Weeks pass, then months. The season turns. The water warms slightly. The wind shifts. The village settles into a new rhythm, shaped by who is gone and who remains. Names stop being spoken daily. Grief doesn't disappear. It just learns how to share space with work. You notice changes in yourself that have nothing to do with strength. You flinch when something grabs your wrist unexpectedly. You avoid still water when you can. You count breaths when you're tired. Most of all, you no longer believe in inevitability.
Before, you thought survival was a matter of skill and discipline. Train hard enough, learn enough, respect the sea enough. Now you understand that survival is also luck and timing, and whether someone is close enough to pull you back when your own will falters. That realization humbles you in a way nothing else ever did. One evening, you walk farther down the shore than usual. The tide is low. The rocks are exposed, slick with algae and shining in the fading light. The water is calm, barely moving. The horizon stretches flat and endless. You sit on a stone and let the air cool your skin. For a moment, you allow yourself to remember everything. The weight of the stone pulling you down, the burn in your chest, the rope biting into your hands, the calm that almost ended you. You don't push the memories away this time. You let them exist. You realize something then, sitting there with the sea breathing quietly in front of you. The ocean did not try to kill you.
It did something worse. It showed you how easy it would be to stop. That understanding doesn't fade with time. It sharpens. It changes the way you see effort, pain, and rest. You become someone who knows deeply, permanently, that giving up doesn't always feel like fear. Sometimes it feels like relief. That knowledge makes you careful in a way that has nothing to do with water. You notice it when work gets heavy, when hunger returns, when grief stacks up again. You notice when your thoughts start drifting towards stillness instead of solutions, when the idea of stopping feels reasonable. And when that happens, you do something small but deliberate. You move. You breathe. You ground yourself in sensation. Cold stone under your hand, wind on your face, the sound of someone nearby. You do not let yourself drift. Eventually, someone asks if you will ever dive again. The question is casual, almost polite, no pressure, no expectation. You don't answer right away. You look at the water instead. You know you could. Your body is capable. Your skills are still there. Muscle memory doesn't disappear. You could tie the cloth. You could grip the rope. You could descend once more into that familiar, dangerous quiet. But you also know something else now. You know exactly how close you came to not wanting to come back. So you answer honestly. You say you don't know. And for the first time in your life, that feels like a complete answer. Years pass. The village changes around you. New divers take the place of the old. Some leave the sea early. Some stay until it takes them. You age into a different role, one that stands closer to shore than the deep. You teach when asked, not techniques, not bravado, but caution. You teach people to recognize exhaustion, to respect hunger, to surface early without shame. Some listen, some don't. The sea continues, and so do you. There are nights, even decades later, when you wake suddenly, lungs burning, convinced you've been holding your breath too long. You sit up, heart pounding, and wait for the feeling to pass. It always does. Slower than you'd like, but it does. You've learned not to rush it. In the quiet moments, when the world slows enough for reflection, you understand the truth you couldn't see when you were younger. Survival is not a single victory. It's a series of decisions made when no one is watching. It's choosing pain over quiet, movement over stillness, breath over ease, again and again and again. The sea never stopped calling you. It doesn't need to. It lives in your memory now, in your body, in the way you respect exhaustion and fear silence that feels too welcoming. It shaped you in ways no one else can see. And in that way, it never really let you go. But you learned something it didn't expect. You learned how to come back, not just to the surface, but to yourself. And every morning you wake, draw in a careful breath, and choose to stay.
you are still holding your breath in the deep blue, just long enough to live.